church family and all of our Sugar Valley Baptist friends. This is another daily devotion from the porch of the preacher. And I want to give you something today, hopefully. I know all of us have something in common that I'm going to talk about today, but I want to ask you 4 or 5 things as we start. Has anybody ever told you that you had a big mouth? And in that, they're not talking about the size of your mouth. I remember one time that we had a contest to see who could stuff the most marshmallows in their mouth. And by that, we determined who had the biggest mouth. But has anybody ever told you you had a dirty mouth? And that's not by what's on the outside of your mouth that they can see, but it's what comes out from the inside of your mouth, and they call you a dirty mouth person. Has anybody ever made the comment to you that you had a sharp tongue? And that was not because of the shape of your tongue, but it was because of the sharpness of the words that came out of your mouth. Has anybody told you you had a smart mouth? And it didn't have anything to do with the wisdom that was in your head or the wisdom that came out of your mouth. It was that your words that came out were, and sometimes we'll call it a smart aleck person. Well, in Psalms 19:14, the psalmist David gives us a goal for our mouth. He ends that psalm with verse 14 by saying, Lord, here's my goal. Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. So I want to tell you today that what we say matters. And in Matthew chapter 12, verse 34, Jesus reminds us that what comes out of our mouth, he says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So he reminds us that what we say reveals what's truly in our heart. In the book of James, James chapter 3, James tells us that the tongue is something that is untamed, and no man can tame it. That word untamed there means it's uncontrolled or out of control. And what you say matters, but listen to this. Also, what you don't say matters. And both of them are important. To use proper speech as a child of God, we must not only say the right words at the right time, but we must also not say words that we shouldn't say. There's times that we need to guard our tongues and we need to guard our mouths. And if you want to be in perfect spiritual control, the tongue is a good place to begin. James 3:2 says, if we could control our tongue, we could become a perfect person and could control ourselves in every other way. So we see there the importance of controlling our tongue. So let me give you a thought. If you want your words to be acceptable to your Lord, like the psalmist David said, Lord, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight. If that would be a goal that you would set for yourself today, let me give you this challenge. Don't just clean up your speech. Many times in life I've said, I'm going to change what I'm doing. I'm going to change this. I'm going to quit saying foul words. I'm going to quit talking about people. But we don't just need to clean up our speech. We need to ask our God to clean up our speech at its source. We need to ask God to clean up our heart. Ask Him to examine our heart and allow us to be a person that what's in our heart is acceptable to Him. Remember what David said, Lord, let the words of my mouth, that's what we're talking about today, our mouth being acceptable to God. But he also said, let the words of my mouth and the things that are in my heart, the meditations of my heart, the thoughts of my heart, be acceptable in your eyes. So let's ask God today to purify our hearts, and let's ask God to make us what He would have us to be. God bless you. Have a great afternoon. We'll talk to you tomorrow. God bless.